started a media company with zero videography experience, zero editing experience, zero social media backend experience, zero website creation experience. Most people look at you and say, you're an idiot, you're crazy, why would you do that? Because I knew with the power of social media and knowing this mindset of you don't need to know how to do everything, you need to know people that know how to do what you don't. You know, for me, I'm really good at sales. Am I great at editing? No. Am I great at filming? Not great. Am I good? Yeah. Am I good at building websites? Not great, but I can do it. But I know people who can, and I've built a team around my weaknesses. My name is Luke Citarelli. I've been in business a couple months now. I'm the owner of Citarelli Media Co. I started with a passion to really go to businesses and show them the power of social media and what that can do for them. It's really been such a special ride for the past couple months, just learning and getting my feet wet in that type of business, but really just coming to it with that really important business drive and going into every single conversation or lead with full energy, just trying to close deals and create a successful business that actually improves other people's businesses as well. So that's really what's sets us apart, is we want to actually invest in your company with like it was our own, to make it super special for you and really just show you the power of what social media can do for your company.
One thing you just said really resonates with me because it's very similar mission as to what I'm doing. Is not only are we obviously trying to grow my business, your business, like our own businesses, but the goal, part of the byproduct of growing our own businesses is growing other people's businesses. And the only way I succeed is by helping other people succeed. It's kind of a byproduct, and to some degree, I feel like it's a bit more of a righteous goal.
Yeah.
So I admire that. I think it's really cool, rather than just being about yourself. It truly is about the other business.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Most of the time, people go into conversations with, that mindset of what can I get out of somebody. I kind of go into each conversation as, how can I help you? How can you help me? Creating a genuine connection instead of a transactional one.
Mm.
That's something that I've kind of rewired my brain a little bit in, the past couple months, just getting my feet wet in sales and stuff like that. But I've always been that type of kid that's wanted to make a lot of money, wanted to go grind, having businesses throughout high school and, growing up as a kid, going out from sun up to sundown, snow plowing. I've always had that, business drive. And that's from my mom, my dad, my grandpa, growing up in the family deli with my grandma on the front, my grandpa in the back. So I've always had that drive. But actually going on to sales online is a totally different ballgame. You want to close the deal at the end of the day, but it's how do you close a deal and not come off like you're actually trying to sell someone. So you actually genuinely want to help someone succeed in their company, and creating that genuine friendship at the end of the day and partnership, and not a transactional one, is a really, really thing that I think people should learn early on, is how do I help somebody instead of just trying to get something from somebody.
I relate tremendously to your backstory. I was exactly that kid. I was a kid selling energy drinks out of my locker because I just had this a love for business, and I was like, oh, I can buy a 12 pack of energy drinks for I don't know, $14. If I sell them for $3 each, I can make $36. It's almost 2.5 times that. That was me at
Yeah,
16 years old.
yeah.
It was very. I was like taking them out of my backpack. It looked like I was selling drugs. It was
Yeah, I
crazy.
think one of the funniest things that I remember, like it was yesterday, was I was in my garage and I bought this Chinese quad, and I was trying to cut up snow shovels and how do I put them together to create a plow for my quad. And then I had it made. It was terrible. The quad wasn't even four-wheel drive, so it didn't even push snow, but it was absolutely terrible. And then that Christmas, my dad surprised me and he bought me a quad with a plow, winch, everything, the whole 9 yards. But as soon as I got that quad, I was literally out the next snowstorm from sun up to sundown. And I remember it like it was literally yesterday. I come inside, I sit down on the bench next to the door, taking my boots and snow gear off. And my dad goes, how was it? And I pull out of my pocket, I had an entire wad of cash and absolutely crushed it. And I think that was probably one of the most rewarding feelings, was actually having like something that I can go out and crush business with. And from there, I was like, nothing stopping me from, reaching my goals and what I want to do and just making a ton of money. So that was just a funny story about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we talked quite a bit actually before we even started filming, and you mentioned. So tell me a little bit about the media company, but then outside of that, you really focus mainly on your goal is to focus mainly on ads. So talk to me about the whole scope of the media, and then we'll talk about ads specifically.
Yeah, so, in my media company, what I want to do is, like I said, I want to help companies reach their full potential through the power of social media. And, a lot of companies, service-based businesses, product-based businesses, or whatever the business is most people don't know how to use social media to its full potential. And that's where I come in. I've learned social media from really early on, just building my personal page around pickleball and getting sponsorships by Whoop, Lululemon, Celsius, these really big, multi-billion-dollar companies. And from there, I was like, I can really grow my personal social media to get these big deals. Why can't I do that for other companies? And that's how Citarelli Media Co. came to be, where I was like, I love filming, I love creating content, but let's actually create a business around this. So once I, got my, foundation set, everything was set, I was like, let's start trying to sell this. So what I did was I went up to every single business on Main Street in West Hampton Beach, New York. And I literally went in there. I was like, this is what I'm doing. Are you doing social media? If not, let's just have a discovery meeting. Let me see if I can even help you. And that's where it goes back to, let's have that genuine connection besides that transactional one. So I was like, let me see if I can even help you. And then from there, I created my model. Everything went smoothly. I was creating content for clients, editing the content, posting the content, managing their pages. So to get back to your question, what we do is we specifically do a lot of things in social media. We can create content for you. We can edit your content. We can post the content on your page. We can manage your social media pages. We can interact with clients in your direct messages and then hand it off to you as the business owner. We can build your website. We can do SEO. We can do ads. We can do meta ads, Google ads. We literally do everything on social media that puts you in the right direction to scale your company through social media. And why it's so important is because we see that on social media, there's a lot of businesses that are super, super old school, a lot of word of mouth. But the problem with word of mouth is it's not predictable. You can have 10 clients this month and you can have none next month because word of mouth is not predictable. So we come into your business, we fully define what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, where your biggest opportunity lies. From there, create a custom model that fits your company and your company only, depending on what we learned in our discovery meeting. From there, we'll go analyze it. We'll put this game plan together. We'll go up to you in another meeting and we'll say, listen, this is what we're going to do. Here's how it's going to work. And most of the time, in most of the models that we put up for our clients, it's completely hands off for the client. And that's why they love it. They say, put your trust in us, put your trust in Citarelli Media Co., me and my team. And I tell you, you're going to see wonders. And that's where we've really succeeded is, just going into companies and just showing them what we can do for them with live case studies for what we've done for other companies. And from there, we've seen, a really, really big return on investment in, our energy, our time, our ads, and everything that we're doing for our clients. So that's kind of the overall umbrella of what Citarelli Media Co. does and what we embody. And, we can get into some deeper stuff on exactly what we're doing, but that's the overall umbrella to answer your question.
You mentioned pickleball very briefly, and obviously I know your story, but for the audience, can you elaborate on that and then talk about what you do with pickleball, but also how the brands are related to that?
Yeah, so pickleball is never what I ever thought I'd be doing as a college athlete, and even playing, on the professional tour and traveling around the entire country playing pickleball. Never would ever thought I'd be to LA on Rodeo Drive or, to the Midwest or Kansas City or, playing in Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York City. I never thought, in a million years that's what I would be doing as a college kid. And how it came to be was, my entire life I was a big wrestler, boxing, jiu-jitsu, a little bit of MMA, and when I went to college, I wasn't going to go to college. I had a landscaping company in high school. I had around 60 accounts, managing two crews, and as a senior in high school, I was managing two crews and not really being in the dirt, doing the hands-on labor, and I loved that. And from there, I was like, I'm making a boatload of money as a high school kid. Really, in the real world, it probably wasn't a boatload of money, but for my age, I was like, this is really, really good. Why am I going to go to school? And 2 weeks before decision day, my dad came up to me my senior year and he goes, "Where have you applied to
Mhm.
college?" And I didn't. I didn't apply. I said, "Dad, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to work." And I found out real quick that wasn't going to be the plan for me. He made me apply to school. So I applied to Florida Southern College, where I'm at now, and University of Hawaii. I had a bunch of offers to go wrestle in college, and I turned them down, and because my mindset was going to work. So I applied to Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida, between Tampa and Orlando, and I applied to University of Hawaii. The school in Florida where I'm at now, I applied there because my dad went there, my brother went there. We have a house right up the road. My dad's fraternity brothers, a lot of them still work in the school in the athletic department and public relations, board of trustees. So have some connections there. And then my best friend's sister was committed there to play lacrosse. So I knew a bunch of people that were already going to be there. I was familiar with it. And then University of Hawaii was just a long shot. Where I was like, if I'm going to go to school, that'd be a sick place to go. University of Hawaii never got back to me, so like Florida Southern got back to me and they said you're accepted. So I kind of went there, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm on here. And then how did pickleball come back into play? Where was I wasn't going to wrestle, right? So I needed something to do. So I was just going down to the local public courts, playing with people, and playing with a lot of older people, and I was like, I think I can be good at this. So I started finding some better groups, getting into some better play. My uncle actually owns a facility down in Fort Myers where it was one indoor court, one outdoor court. The best players in the world train there, and it's private only. So I'd go down there, I'd play with him, I'd play with my dad here in tournaments, play with my sister. First tournament I ever played was with my sister, and we won. And that was actually here before I went to school, so I knew what pickleball was a little bit already. But we were, very low level, not even that good. So then I started getting into some better groups, and it just kept getting better and better and better. And then I, really said to myself, I was like, pickleball is really exploding right now professionally. I was like, how do I capitalize on this? So I was like, let me try and actually, be good at this. And so I devoted an entire year, my freshman and sophomore year, 2 years actually, just training, grinding, just, every single day, 7 days a week, just training and drilling, not even playing. Now we train and drill a lot. And from there, I was like, all right, let's start applying for some bigger tournaments, higher levels. 5-0 started 4-5, 5-0, which is the levels and stuff, and then it goes to pro. Won some 5-0 tournaments on the pro tour, and then I was like, all right, let's try pro now. And it's been going good. There's definitely a lot of ups and downs that you would expect if being a professional athlete, keeping up to date, competing at the highest level. It's not all sunshine and rainbows that people see. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and we're still working our way up, trying to make it to the top level. We're not there yet, but that's the goal, and we'll keep working towards that until we see what happens, and just play in the near future.
So now tell me about the role of brands. You mentioned the fact that like now you're working with you're on the pro tour and you're playing pickleball professionally. In addition to obviously running Citarelli Media Co. How does you mentioned Celsius and Whoop and all these companies? Do they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, a few of the companies I reached out to, just flooding people's DMs, like I've always been, right? Like just going into business. Like for example, when I started Citarelli Media Co, I told you I went into every single business on Main Street, West Hampton. So how it came to be was, I want to put myself out there. My content's good. Like if I can just get in front of these companies and they just take a shot at me, well, maybe we can work together. Maybe something big can happen. Maybe a big deal will come up. Like you never know. So a few companies I actually just direct message them. I don't have any agents or anything. It's just me. So I would talk to them and DM some companies. Some companies reach out to me. For example, Whoop reached out to me. Celsius reached out to me. I reached out to Lululemon. And I was like, how could we partner together? And it was actually a really long process with them, getting on board with them, just because it was just like such a globally known
Corporate,
company.
yeah.
It's like, how do you climb that chain of corporate people? And we did that, and it was a long process, but then it worked out, and we managed a good deal. It was fair for both of us, and it's been super fun. It's a great brand to be sponsored by, and I loved it every single day. So.
So tell me a little bit more now about the role of Citarelli Media. So when you're speaking to the clients and when you were servicing the clients, um, actually, no, let me rephrase that. One of the things I wanted to ask you before is you mentioned something about what businesses are doing really well and what businesses are doing poorly on social media. What are some things that businesses are doing poorly on social media and how can they improve?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we see clear as day that people are not doing right on social media is just being inconsistent. And that's really hard because a lot of and I'm going to quote PJ Jensen, you're going to like this one. A lot of things that we see on social media and just in life is you got a lot of motivation to do things. But at the end of the day, what happens when the motivation runs out? Do you have the discipline to keep going forward? And you have the discipline to keep doing what that first motivation drove you to do. And most people, after they have that motivation running out, they don't have the discipline to keep going. So with social media is a lot of people get that motivational burst to, let me post some, some professional content, and what happens? They post professional content, and most of the time it sits on a Google Drive and nothing happens with it. So that's the biggest thing that I see that people are not doing right. And where we capitalize on that is, we will come into your business and we'll do everything for you and create an entire month's worth of content for you. So you don't have to, worry about what happens if I, create a video and post and all that. So we create the whole month. It's completely hands off, and it really, we've seen that clients absolutely love it because they don't have to pick up a camera, they don't have to edit, they don't have to do any of this stuff. That's, we take care of it for you, and it's completely hands-off service. So
Mm. What are some best practices for business? So obviously you said inconsistency is one of the things that hurts a business. What are some practices that help businesses in social media?
I think some practices that may help companies in social media is, defining what your goals are, right? At the end of the day, most people's goals are to create more money. Okay, but how can you create a strategy around making more money? Making more money is broad. Okay, for me, an example, what I did, and I think what a lot of companies should do with their goals on social media in the beginning, is chunk down what their success is. For me in my business, if my success is to make, $1 million a year, it's like, okay, I want to make $1 million a year, but how do I do that? So I chunk it down, and I chunk it down into manageable chunks. So the first chunk would be is like, okay, if I want to make $1 million a year, what do I have to do? I have to get how many clients at what rate? So if I want to make $1 million a year, I'd have to do 31 clients at $3,500 a month. Okay, so we went from a million. How do we get to a million? We need 31 clients. Okay, 31 clients. Okay, now, wow, a million's a big number. 31's a small number. How do we get to 31? Okay, we have to keep doing what we're doing, keep talking, running our ads, networking, meeting as many people as we can. So we go from a million to 31 clients. Then 31 clients is like, okay, how much should you be making per client at 31 clients? And that would be, all right, if we do the math, probably around $3,500. $3,500 a month for 31 clients. Okay, so now it goes from a million to 31 to 3,500. So if we just stack up 3,500 every single month times 31 people, that's 1.3 million a year.
Mm.
So at 1.3 million a year, after taxes and everything, you're right around $1 million. So that's how businesses should, come into their business and their goals with that mindset. Let's chunk down what we have to do. What do we have to do? If we want to make 100 posts, how are we going to do that? First off, let's create a content calendar. Let's create a script. Let's create everything so we can just follow it. And we can say, okay, we want to make 100 pieces of content. Well, let's chunk it down. Let's create a script. Let's follow the script. Let's film these videos this day and break it down. And then by the end of the month, you say, okay, we chunked the 100 videos down on how we're actually going to attain that goal. And by the end of the month, boom, you have 100 videos. So that's one thing that I think is super easy that businesses should be doing is chunking down where they want to be. And how do you do that? You create, actual obtainable goals to get to the big goal. That's the easiest thing that companies should do, and they're not doing, especially on social media.
Let's talk advertisements, because you said we were talking beforehand that advertisements are your bread and butter. What are people doing wrong and what are people doing right in the ad world?
Yeah, I mean, ads is a tricky game. And if you go into ads and not really understanding how they work, how the back ends work, how everything works. And for me, I was never a technical person. I started a media company with zero videography experience, zero editing experience, zero social media backend experience, zero website creation experience. And most people look at you and say, you're an idiot. You're crazy. Why would you do that? Because I knew with the power of social media and knowing this mindset of you don't need to know how to do everything. You need to know people that know how to do what you don't. And where, for me, I'm really good at sales. Am I great at editing? No. Am I great at filming? Not great. Am I good? Yeah. Am I good at building websites? Not great, but I can do it. But I know people who can, and I've built a team around my weaknesses. And that's what companies need to do, is to build a team around their weaknesses. And the ad game is really, really important. And you can, so this is also another thing that is really important with ads, right? You can run ads, you could set up a campaign, but it's a matter of if it will be good or not, if it will be changing your business, if it will get you more leads, if it will contribute to more sales, right? And you can learn over time if this will be good for your business or not, right? And are you getting good at ads or not? Are you getting better at ads or not, right? But for me, I didn't want to take the time to learn it. So what did I do? I shortcut the process and I networked with people who knew what I knew who knew what I didn't know, and I learned it. And from there, when you put yourself around those people and you learn it, you can short that process by just networking with people and figuring out people who know what you don't know. So the ads they're really good. We have a strategy that really crushes it. It's basically a machine that the more money you put in, the more money you get out. And that's the thing that we see with businesses. They're running ads, and for example, I had a client like we were talking before. I launched their ads on a Tuesday night. On a Wednesday morning, they had 6 qualified leads. And I get on the phone with him, and I have it filmed. My dad filmed me on the phone with him, and I made him say it again to get this on film because I'm going to use it for marketing. And I said, "Tell me how much you spent before you started working with me." He goes, "Luke, I spent $2,000 on ads, and I got not a single lead. I reached 100,000 people, but I got 0 leads." And then I was so excited. I said, "Tell me how much you spent with me in the last day in ad spend." And he goes, $50. And I go on the phone. I go, how many leads did you get? How many calls do you have booked tomorrow? He goes, I have 2 booked right now. I got 4 more in the pipeline that I'm going to book. So it's a matter of, you can set up his ads, right? But is it optimized to get the best conversion? And his weren't. And that's where, you can be good at something. You can be good at making a sandwich, but do you make a mean ass sandwich? Probably not, right? So you just go to those people who know what you don't know, and you can be very successful in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I found in business one of the best ways to help people essentially trust your business is and trust the fact that you know what you're doing is by expressing some of the expertise. Um, 98% of businesses will hear the advice but not do it and just want to hire somebody else. Everybody knows, every business knows they need to be posting on social media. Why do companies like yours exist? Because they know they need to do it. They don't either want to, have the time to, or the experience to, so they sub it out. But I do think it builds some sort of brand trust when you say, okay, well, here's why I'm good at it. Here's where, right? So I'm curious if you can give 1 or 2 tips on what actually, as a business owner, you think actually makes a good ad. I think that'll be really interesting for business owners.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of business owners, this is so much free advice that you can get on social media, you can get online, you can get on ChatGPT, but hearing it for someone who actually runs a media company and creates ads around companies' businesses, right, is very, very important. Right? You can create an ad, but if you don't have a system on how your ads are ran, then it doesn't matter if you have a great ad or not. So in the physical ad creative, things that you need to incorporate, if it's a lead form ad or if it's a direct message ad, right? If it's a direct message ad, you have to have a clear call to action. If I have a company that does drone photography, for example, I would say at the top of their ad, I'd say what their business is. Hampton Aerial. Okay. Everyone look this up too. Hampton Aerial. Okay. They're a great company. You should work them. So Hampton Aerial at the top. Under that, their slogan, and it'd be Hampton's premier aerial photography.
On the video or in the caption?
On the actual creative, whether it's video or photo. For example, this was a photo ad. So he did Hampton Aerial, their slogan, Hampton's most premier aerial photography. The middle of it was a big drone flying through the sky. Under it, under the drone, was show what your competitors aren't. So you're being blatant and you're saying, what are we doing? What is your business not doing? And if you're not doing it, most of the time, a lot of other companies aren't. So show what your competitors aren't. Show what you're doing from the sky. And then the call to action is comment the word sky below, and I'll send you more information. And we set up our ads in the back end where they don't even have to type the word sky. They click our call to action. It direct messages our client right away. They get the word sky, and then they go into the direct message and they close the deal from them. We don't guarantee you're going to close deals, but we are going to bring you qualified leads that that we know people need you. So we're going to get the people that we know need you to comment. From there, once we get them to you, our job is done. You talk to them however you want. You close the
Yeah,
deal,
because at that point,
whatever that
it's
price
what
is.
if
Because
you're
we're not a sales company, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to get you the leads. We're going to get you the people that we know can use your service and need your service. And from there, you work the deal out. And to break it down even easier, so it's, understand what I'm saying even easier is, if I'm a roofing company, right, and I'm working with Citarelli Media Co. Citarelli Media Co. is not a roofing company. So we can get you a lead, but we don't know how the architect works with a roofing company. We don't know what it takes to get a new roof. We don't know the permanent side. We don't know any of that. So what we'll do is we'll get that person to come to you. You know that stuff. You know what goes into the roofing company and what it takes to put a new roof on a house. So you communicate that with the client and then close the deal.
You preface my question. My next question was going to be, would you ever consider adding a sales leg to your business? But you just answered it right there in the sense of, well, if you're working with 31 different businesses, there's no possible way you can understand the nuances of 31 different businesses to close the leads. So it makes no sense to do that. So
I've actually, it's funny you said that, because I've actually offered some companies, some of them that I'm a little bit closer with, to be their sales guy. And we have one sales guy that we're bringing on soon, to be our closer. We have hire an appointment setter, hire a closer, hop on all the pitch calls. Because if I'm hopping on 10 pitch calls a day, it's just it's 10 hours of my day where I'm constantly just talking to people. And if say you have a 50% conversion rate and only 5 of them close, it's 5 hours of your day that you just wasted. So we're hiring appointment setters and appointment closers on commission based. That way, we can kind of scale our company and bring in more clients and not have to do every step of the business.
yeah.
But for some companies, I've offered them to close some of their deals, because for some companies, it's just I know I can close deals on them for them, and I was just like, give me a commission.
Talk to me about. I'm curious how, because the whole comment thing on Instagram or Facebook is new, of like, oh, you have a whole video, blah 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 blah. At the end of the video, it's like, comment down below, comment the word sky down below, and it's this whole like AI thing that like will then send them a whole message, and like it recognizes that word has been sent, almost like it was the way it used to be. It's like, oh, text the word sky to 2775.
Yeah.
It's the new version of that. Have you been finding that those convert well? Is the first question, and secondly, how do you know it's a qualified lead, or then do they have to like sort through them?
So the first question, do they convert well? Personally, I've seen that they don't convert well, because if you're talking to me, for example, you want to know you're talking to me. So as soon as I get somebody, or I've done it myself, if I've commented on somebody's ad and I realize that it's AI talking to me, I'm immediately susceptible to being like, no. When I pick up the phone, do I want to talk to an agent, a chatbot, or a human?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to talk to a human. So I don't set up my ads, and I can, but I don't. I tell my clients, I'm not setting up an ad where it's going to be a chatbot talking to your clients, because then you're going to say, I didn't give you any qualified leads, or, I spent all this money with you and I got no jobs, right? But that could be because people don't want to talk to chatbots. So they comment the word sky, and I tell them, as soon as they get that comment, we set up a whole system where they get, direct notifications, not just a notification from the Instagram app. We have a whole software and system we've built,
Wow.
for that, where they can track their leads. They get notifications for brand new hot lead, and then they can track their leads through an entire pipeline, from new lead to close to ghost to long-term nurture and everything in between.
Ghost, yeah.
Yeah, so
The best kind of lead.
yeah, the ghost. So they comment the word sky and you don't hear from them. But
Yeah.
so do I think it works? No. I think people want to talk to real humans. And your second question was, what's your second question?
If they were qualified leads.
If they're qualified leads. So we have 2 types of leads. We have direct message leads. We have engagement leads, more than 2, but the 2 we use are direct message and lead form. And if you want more qualified leads, you need to do lead form ads. And that's where a company will run an ad. You'll comment on the ad. You'll put in your name, your email, your phone number, and a little message about, or comment about, what you're looking for or what you do. That way, once it triggers our software, you'll get a text message, X, Y, and Z commented on your ad. Here's their information. It automatically goes into your pipeline as a new lead under the new leads tab, and then you move them down the pipeline depending on where they're at for each lead. With direct message ads, you get qualified leads because of the way we set your ads up on the back end, but to sort through them, you won't really know. You're going to have to sort through them a little bit, a little bit more and talk to a little bit more people and find that, your conversions are a little bit slightly different on each level depending on the ad. But with lead form ads, we qualify them by making them fill out questions, and we specifically say in certain questions, do not apply, do not apply, and do not apply on the 3 questions we ask them. If, for example, they're not making enough money, if they don't want to invest in social media, and depending on the business, their question would vary depending on the business, like I said, and that's how we qualify them. Do not apply. So we know the people that are applying, they're either lying or they're actually interested, and that's how you can deter some clients. Because, for example, if you're broke, right, and you have no money, and my qualification question is, if you're making less than $5,000 a month, please do not apply in all caps, and you comment you're making $30K a month. Well, one, I'll hop on a sales call with you and I'll understand that you have no money to invest in my social media business in the first 2 minutes, because I qualify them. I qualify them again with a second round of qualification.
Same questions or similar or different questions?
Similar but rephrased.
Okay,
So
very
you're not really
interesting.
coming off salesy. And for example, I'd say, how invested, how much of an investment would you be willing to make in your company? On this range, how much would you be willing to invest? And if the first question is 500 to 1,000, and the second one is, 1,000 to 1,500, and the third one is 1,500 to 2,000. If they say 500 to 1,000, I'm sorry, thanks for taking the time, but I don't think we can help you, because we know the value of what we can bring to you. And for $500 a month, we would never do that, right? Because we know the value we can bring to you. If you're a roofing company and I say, for $500 a month, I can make you a $100,000 roof job, why would we charge $500 a month? And if they're saying, no, we don't want to pay $500 a month, those are the clients you don't want to work with.
Mm.
You want to work with high margin businesses. You want to work with companies that have, a really, really good monthly revenue coming in consistently, and work with companies that are going to trust what you want to do. Because what I've seen is, you work with companies that don't have the money to pay you. They want to be involved in every part they want to be involved in every part of the business. They want to control,
Mm.
and they want to breathe down your neck. And being straight honest, those are the worst clients to work with, because they don't have the money, so they feel like they want to be in control, so they know where their money's going. You work with these big businesses, they trust you. You build that trust with them. You show what you can do with them through live case studies, through numbers, through analytics of what you've done for other clients similar to their niche. And they trust you, and they say, Citarelli Medico, go do your job. So if I'm working with a roofing company, I keep using this example because it's so easy to wrap your head around. If I'm working with a roofing company and I'm a school teacher, I'm not going to be down your neck while you're putting every single nail in the house, because I trust you. You know what you're doing.
Mm.
So it's the same concept. You trust what you know what we're doing. Let us do our job, and we'll get you results. And we'll work on a level where we think is fair with the client on certain things that we'll let them be involved in, certain things that we'll just say let us do our job with. And it's being I think honesty and being blatant on what
Mm.
your expectations are with working with a client is really important too.
I think what you said is an incredibly important business. I don't know how to phrase it, but like essentially what you just said about like the clients that are the most frustrating to pick you are the ones that can't really afford you, so they try to control it. And the best kind of client is the one that absolutely can afford you. You said it so much more eloquently, but it's such an incredible business tactic that I think so many other businesses should implement. And I think it really depends on where you are in the stage. If you're making no money yet, and not that everything revolves around money, but if you're making no money, you have to start taking some sort of clients so you can
That's what I
start.
did in the beginning. I was starving. I, paid a lot of money for a really, really, really good mentor who, does over 150K a month some months. And, you know, he was not he was not a cheap mentor. And I paid for, his services and his coaching and all that. And that's why I learned it and sped up the process. So as soon as I spent that money, as a 20-year-old kid spending, close to $10,000 in total, is can be really expensive. So when you learn that, where, like I said, you can try and take the long road and learn it all yourself, or gather yourself around people who know what you're doing and build a team that knows what you don't know. That's super, super important. And I feel like that was the biggest thing, because I spent that money in the beginning and I was like, I was almost scared.
Hmm.
Not that I didn't have, money in the bank where I could live off of. I did. And I had, this mindset where I was like, I just spent so much money, and over the long run, this is going to be so much money, but I need to now make money back. So I was taking anyone I could.
Hmm.
And that's where I learned that problem, where I was like,
Hmm.
you can't work with businesses that don't have money.
Hmm.
And that's some things that some businesses don't know how to do, is turn clients away, and they just want to chase the money, chase the money, chase the money. At the end of the day, you work with people that you want to work with, that you know are going to be good clients to work with. You're going to create that relationship that's not stressful, and it makes it more enjoyable in what you're doing, and less, of brain
Yeah.
confusion and fog and clutterness, because you have that ability to just be free and do your
Yeah.
job the right way and the best way possible to create the best outcome for your client.
Absolutely. And I think that it's hard to scale when you take every client.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want to ask a very niche question, a very specific question related to ads, and I'll just use some random but specific numbers so you can understand the example. So say somebody's spending $50 a day. $50 a day times 30 days is 1,500 a month. Hypothetically, they're running one ad, right? If they want to open up a second ad, but their budget is 1,500 a month, they have to reduce that first ad. So for example, again, it was $50 a day. So they say they're like, okay, let's split it. We'll go from 50 to 25, and we'll split the other 25 to the other ad. Obviously, Facebook knows that you just reduced the amount of money you're spending towards that first ad. Have you seen that affects performance, or is it just completely unrelated?
No, I think it's totally, totally related to performance. Um, Facebook, at the end of the day, is a business. So they want to make money. And how do they do this? What I've seen too is, before I even started running ads, I was getting pretty good reach on my social media. And then I tried that few boosted posts or two and put money behind a few boosted posts, more related to my sponsorship stuff. And I noticed when I stopped doing the boosting, my my interactions, my likes, views, comments, shares, story replies, all these things were significantly lower than what they were in the beginning, before I did the boosted, because I feel like they almost want to incentivize you to keep doing the boosting and keep giving them more
It's like
money.
a drug dealer.
Yeah, so I noticed that, but your ads question, I think, is super, super relatable. When you're running ads, the more money you put in, the more money you get out, if your back end and your strategy for the ad is the correct strategy. For example, my client spent $2,000 and get a single lead. Me, they spent $50 and one day they had 6 calls the next day. So, but that's all strategy based. Okay, but in the beginning, especially in ads, when you figure out what your right ads are you have to figure out and test what's working and what's not. If you're running a brand new campaign, for example, I come and run a campaign for your podcast company, we're not going to know right away, if you've never ran an ad, what target interests work the best. So from that, you say to yourself, okay, in the beginning, the more money you put in, the faster you speed up that testing process.
Mm.
Okay, and I believe your question is, if you don't
If
put,
you reduce the amount,
yeah,
so say you run it for 30
if
days,
you put,
you're like, I want to change this up. I want to spend a little less here, but spend maybe somewhere else. Will that affect the performance of
yeah,
the
I
ad? Or
think I think I think it could definitely play a role. You might not reach as many people, and that's probably the biggest thing. The more money you put in, at the end of the day, the more reach you get, the more they push it out on social media. Um, so yeah, I think it can definitely play a correlation in how many leads you get if you spend $5 a day or $100 a day. I mean, $100 a day, you're going to get a boatload of more leads,
Mm.
and more reach and more following and more interactions and all that stuff. So it's just kind of a machine. The more money you put in, the more money you
Yeah.
get out.
So wrapping it up, where do you see what's the goal for your business? Where do you see yourself going in the next year?
My goal, and I haven't started even running ads for my own company. I've been so busy with just word of mouth, and it's kind of hypocritical, as I tell companies, don't be a word of mouth company, because it's unpredictable. For me, I know so many businesses that are high margin, where I've tested what I'm doing in their business, based off what I've learned and what my mentors taught me, and I've seen the outcome it's made. I have a client, they spent $1,600 in ad spend and they made $22,500. So the ads game is super, super incredible. And if companies aren't doing it, they're missing out on, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Just to be completely transparent. And for me, I know as soon as I set up my ads, and we have our campaigns, they're in the works. They're not published yet, but we have our creatives done. We have everything done. We just wanted to make sure that as soon as we start running our ads, our infrastructure is set, our foundation is solid, it's cured, everything's there. We have every system in place to scale. So we haven't started our ads yet, but as soon as we launch our ads, um, our goal is in the next 6 months reach $100,000 a month, and we believe we can because the power of ads is unreal. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's our goal, and turning 21 in the next few days. Um, my goal from 21 to 22 is put myself in a position to be able to retire by 30 years old. And I think it's super attainable. And with the power of social media and the power of ads, you can do it. And for most businesses, I leave them off with this, and we can leave off with this is, if you're a business owner who's looking for more qualified leads, looking to reach their full potential on social media, you have a long trip ahead of you. You got a 5,000-mile trip ahead of you. You could start walking and you'll get there eventually, or you could book a first class ticket, work with a company who's done it over and over again, and get there in just a few hours. And I think if people can wrap their mindset around that and work with people who know what you don't know, you don't want to have to learn it and take the time to learn it. Sure, you can, but there's going to be plenty of bumps in the road. Shortcut the process, work with somebody that's done it over and over again, and change the mindset of spending money with a company that can help you grow to investing money back into yourself, your family, your company, to help everything else that you've just mentioned succeed as well. So
Mm.
that's what I leave every single closing call on, and I've seen it. It really works, and it's just a mindset of just you're not going to learn everything. You're not going to know everything. You can try and learn everything in the
Mm.
social media game, in the ads game, in the website game, SEO, all these things, but work with a team that's done it over and over again, proven track record that's done it over and over again, where you don't have to take the time to learn it and take years and take this time, because at the end of the day, you're going to have the motivation to learn it. But what happens? Do you have the discipline to keep trying to learn it? Or do you want to work with someone that it's a completely hands-off service? And that's what we are. And that's just what we hope to do with every single company.
It's great, man, and I wish you absolutely the best.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.